Hello, everyone. This is Invasive, the place you learn about the entire universe, how it began, and how it will end. Today, we are going to be talking about a little more of a different topic, which is going to be biodiversity, and how we as a human race affect it in a negative way. Or, in layman's terms, how we as a human race are invasive species. I hope you enjoy this informative video. So, cutting to the chase, as I just stated, humans are invasive species, and that's because of that, we are currently causing the sixth mass extinction, which, as a result of it, is going to be much more catastrophic than any of the last five, due to one, animals going extinct at a much faster rate than any of the previous five, and that were originally around before we were here. Say, for instance, one example of that is going to be with the white rhino. Say, for instance. And several other ones, like Siberian tigers and stuff like that. And of course, I can go on and on about that, but that's not what this video is for, of course. Anyways, but the main point of this letter is that species are going extinct at a much faster rate than any of the previous five, and that we have to do something about it. Before I get onto that, we have to acknowledge the reasons for this. So let's get on to that. So this all is happening primarily because of human activity, mostly through the unsustainable usage of our land. Now, that basically is going to mean that we are using our land very inefficiently, and that we're not using it very well. Now, of course, there's going to be a pretty easy solution to this, easy on paper at least. But an easy solution to this is just going to be, using our land more efficiently and using it in a way that we're not just throwing out land, and that we're just leaving it to rot. Yeah, so I say that's a pretty good solution to that problem, at least. All right, and actually the second one is going to be our usage of water and energy. Now, with water, on the other hand, that also has a play in pollution as well, actually. Since if we pollute our water, then it's not only going to affect the aquatic life forms which live inside of the water, but also it's going to affect any ecosystems that are shaped around water, which is basically every ecosystem on this planet. No matter where you go, there's going to be water somewhere on this planet. So if we pollute it, then, let's just say the animals are not going to have a very good time in that ecosystem, let's just say. All right. And then going on to the other one, which is going to be energy usage. That's going to primarily play in the usage of clean energy and stuff like that, which also is going to play a key role in pollution as well. Like with fossil fuels and how it releases deadly fumes into the atmosphere, along with greenhouse gases, which are going to transmit into the third one, which is going to be climate change, which I'll get onto later because that one's going to be a pretty big thing to cover. So bear with me here. But while I wait for that, I'm going to be talking about some other key points here. So the other key point here is going to be us introducing invasive species of our own designs to the process of GMOs, or genetically modified organisms. Now, luckily, we have kind of, decades ago, we've gotten rid of GMOs, luckily. So at least we have that going for us. However, but GMOs, the reason why they're still a problem today is because while we might have stopped the production of them, we haven't fully eradicated them, or at least gotten rid of the gene that made them invasive species in the first place. In fact, it's a really good example of GMOing plants and animals is going to be in the form of cane toads, actually, which are native to Australia. And cane toads, they feed on sugar canes and sugary fruits, and that they originally were kind of venomous, actually. However, but we did a little experiment on them where it made them a little bit more venomous than usual, which in turn kind of turned into kind of like a catastrophe, actually. Since, due to what we did to them, no animals in the entirety of Australia were immune to this because they couldn't react in time. Because we were able to alter these genes faster than these other animals could react to it, faster than evolution could react to it. And so, in turn, this kind of led to a little bit of a negative cascade, which went up throughout the ecosystem, well, up throughout the entirety of Australia, actually, because since nothing was immune to the venom of this type of toad, and because no animal was immune to it, not even the predators, well, these toads, they multiplied very, very rapidly. Which, in turn, they started eating out the sugar canes very rapidly, which this cascaded up throughout the trophic levels. Since if there's going to be less sugar canes, there's going to be less toads, there's going to be less predators, there's going to be less secondary predators, tertiary, quaternary, so on and so forth. Which is going to be not very good, let's just say. So yeah. Now, luckily we already have found a solution to this, as I've already have said before, so at least we have that going for us. But, of course, a partial solution to it. Not an entire solution. Since there are still of course there are still cane toads out there, and there are still GMO'd plants out there that are literally strangling plants to death. Like those bamboo plants out there. It's scary. And worst of all is that they multiply at insane rates. In fact, a good example of this is going to be the assassin plant, actually. So assassin seeds. Which, one, they multiply at an insanely fast rate, but also they strangle out other plants, and they take the resources for themselves in order to facilitate the reproductions of this plant, which is very scary, to be honest. Now, luckily, there is also a solution to this as well, which we actually have done, and it has seen some success, actually, which is going to be that of genetically modifying the animals in a way that when they mate, there's going to be a suppressing gene, which then is going to suppress their genetically modified genes, which will then transfer to their offspring, which would have then transferred to their offspring, because the gene's going to kind of snip it out, kind of. And because of the snipping out, there's going to be... Now, while there's going to be... the gene that was going to be originally was going to be a genetically modified gene, is going to be suppressed. The suppressing gene will stay present, which then will transfer on to the offspring, which then will mate with another one, or its offspring mates with a frog that has the genetically modified gene in the future. Well, frog or something like that in the future, actually. In fact, a good example of this is going to be that of mosquitoes, actually, and that of malaria. And that's the reason why if you get bitten by a mosquito today, you most likely won't get malaria, because there's going to be a suppressing gene which suppresses the presence of malaria. Well, the allowance of malaria inside mosquitoes in the form of plasmids, which is very fascinating. However, but if it backfires, we kind of have no hope left for us, and that is kind of the end. Bye-bye. Game over for us. So, yeah. We better act now. Let's say for the very least. All right, and then another thing that's going to kind of like facilitate in our effects on the animals and the environment is going to be that of reintroductions of predators and animals and plants at the wrong times that they weren't supposed to be introduced, And that if you introduce these plants and animals at the incorrect times, then it's not going to end well. So while there may be, there's good times and there's bad times to introduce them. For instance, an example of a good time is going to be that of the wolves in Yellowstone, say, for instance. That's going to be a very good example because, they were introduced at the right time. However, if you introduce animals at the wrong time, when the environment has adapted to live without them, will live without them, as both sides adapt, they eventually just turn into invasive species, and they kind of just compete with the so-called original inhabitants of the environment, which have evolved without them, which in turn they outcompete them because the environment has become more lax, let's just say. All right. And then finally, the final reason, well, the final reasoning for this is actually going to be going off of that, which is going to be humans' interactions with the environment. And, well, it's going to be going off of us building structures and kind of driving out animals from their original environments into new environments. And by doing that, it's going to force them possibly into different ecosystems, which is going to then possibly make them to invasive species because they're foreign there, you know? Which then they'll outcompete the original habits of the environment, in which then they may either drive them out as we did to them, or possibly even eradicate them for good from their ecosystem, or possibly from even the biosphere. So yeah, and that's very scary, to be honest. Yeah, but there's one thing that all this has in common, and that's going to be human interaction now. And that goes back to what I was talking about before, which is going to be climate change. If we do not do something about climate change soon, we are screwed. Done. Zip. Everything on this entire planet is screwed. Because if we don't do something about it, well, we can do all we want about fixing all these ecosystems and fixing all the problems that we have with them, with pollution and yada yada yada. But if we don't fix climate change, which is going to be the main key point here, then there's not much else that we can do, to be honest. Since, well, it's going to eradicate the animals before we even have a chance to save them, which in turn is going to screw everything up. But of course, we all know the solutions to these, but we just have to act. You, me, everyone around us has to act now, and I mean it. We have to act now. Given all the solutions that I've provided, and the solutions that we already know that are going to impact climate change, which I'll name a few here. For instance, limiting our usage of fossil fuels, using more clean energy, which actually is going to be cheaper and it's going to be better for our economy in general. And also, it also is going to be generally better for also saving the lives around us as well. So it's being since cleaner energies, they barely ever kill, if not ever kill, depending on what type of clean energy you're talking about. And also, yeah, that's basically it about that. So to be honest, it's very obvious, we have to act now, and we can't only just convince the hierarchy of our society. We also have to convince our public around us to act as well. Since if they don't act, then no one will act. We have to convince the majority, not the minority. And that's, I think, is a very key point. It's a very important point to make here, in order for us to act and to possibly save not only ourselves, but those around us and the animals around us, so we can continue facilitating research in the lovely world around us, and to help us endure through these hard times around us, and to facilitate new scientific research in the natural world. All right, I hope you enjoyed this very informative video, and I hope to see you guys soon.